The Pacers did the thing. They traded Domantas Sabonis. The rebuild is fully underway. It falls right in line with what they did Sunday, trading away Caris LeVert. They get Tyrese Haliburton. There's a lot to talk about with the Pacers and this ginormous franchise-altering trade on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to an emergency midday Tuesday podcast to the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. And if it's an emergency pod, the Pacers must have did something huge, and they did. They did. Per Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, the Pacers are trading Domantas Sabonis, their two-time All-Star, to the Sacramento Kings. Lots to talk about on today's show. I'm Tony East, one of the hosts of this show. I cover the team for Forbes and the West Side Community News. And joining me today to talk about this seismic move, a big change in the future of the Pacers pod father himself, Mr. Dave Searle, Miller Time Pod on Twitter. Dave, how are you? What has your day been like? Give me stuff about you that isn't about basketball for like 2 seconds.
Oh wow. Okay. No. I was actually working out a little bit. Believe it or not, this takes work to maintain. And I was like, I'll stick away for a little bit, and of course, then all chaos breaks loose. So it's always nice to get like the Woj bomb like the second it happens, So it was kind of, you never want to see the like 6 notifications later kind of catch up. So took a little bit out of that, but I don't care, man. I'm pretty excited for the trade. I think that this is a very good version of it, and excited to talk about that. What it's going to do for the team, how this kind of fits into what they've done in the past, and all that sort of jazz. A lot of different things to talk about. Pretty surprised by this. I would not have, if I made a guess of 10 different Sabonis trades, I don't think this would have been one of them. But I think, in a good way,
Right. I think that the noise with the Kings was strong for a while, but I thought it was Fox who was the focus of the Kings, and we'll get to the trade package in a moment. But you talked about being excited. And I have a full-time job that's not in basketball, and I don't want to tell everybody what I do, but I work with a lot of people who don't care about sports. They don't care about sports, and I still had 4 or 5 people in the time between me leaving the office and getting in this chair and talking to you right now who are like, "What just happened, dude? Can you explain this to me?" That's how big this trade is, and I know that Sabonis isn't that level of guy in the NBA, but that's the level of impact this trade is for the Pacers. Like, no one said anything to me about Caris LeVert getting dealt. Many people mention this trade. The full deal, per Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, Justin Holiday, and a 2027 second rounder. Who cares? We're not going to talk about that for the rest of the show. To the Kings in exchange for Tyrese Haliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Originally, Woj said Jeremy Lamb, which was pretty funny. We spoke about Justin Holiday. So look, we can talk about the other pieces. Buddy Hield matters in this deal, I think, a little bit. Right, losing Justin Holiday is part of this for sure, but this is all about Haliburton, because to the point that Woj goes on TV and says no one even thought this guy was available, no one thought the Kings would deal him, and that's what makes this trade so seismic for the Pacers is they dealt one of the better players in franchise history. That's how good Haliburton is. Dave, what was your original reaction when you saw this deal come across your screen?
I mean, it was, I was kind of expecting, like you said, maybe some sort of like Fox package. I was expecting something with Sabonis where it was going to be like a B+, A- young guy, and maybe like a first, maybe 1 quality first, maybe 2 okay first. That was kind of what I was thinking was going to be, if they were going to do it, what it would look like. And so to see, I think, a premium young guy, one of the better guys that you can get at that age level, was really shocking to me. I think that really it's sort of like a Sabonis Turner situation to a very, very broad degree, in the sense that maybe Turner's kind of the Haliburton in the sense where the Kings have so many people and so many mouths to feed in the backcourt that he doesn't maybe get quite as much usage as maybe he would on another different squad. And so that slightly suppresses the value a little bit. And like, that's exactly the kind of player that the Pacers were scouring the league for. Boy, I mean, I'm trying to think of, well, because, when people would ask me what the Pacers would do, I'd say take one of the veteran guys, trade it for like that Jermaine O'Neal type dude out there. And then people would ask me what the list of that is. I wouldn't have put Haliburton on the list because I didn't think that. I thought he was too good. I didn't.
My
think
list was like Obi Toppin level guys, not
exactly.
Tyrese Haliburton level guys.
Cam Reddish or something, and I'm just like, okay, and so any list that I would have come up with, I just wouldn't have the guts, so to speak, to put Haliburton on it, honestly. And so that's the thing that is, I think, extremely impressive that they even got a shot at a guy like this. I mean, how young he is, how talented he is, how immediately good he is. I mean, like a lot of rookies, a lot of young guys, the knock on them always, if they don't come out the gates like ready to be like a near all-star, is that, like their shooting is poor. They're turning the ball over way too much, or like they have the talent and they're showing flashes, but it just kind of isn't there yet in many different ways. But like it's all there, and like he just kind of looks like a guy that's just ready to just get the ball and go. And so that's a pretty stunning player to be able to get, I think, on the trade market. And Kings kind of have that situation where they fell to ball handlers and had to clear that out a little bit. And this is exactly the profile of the type of player that I would want in a Sabonis return. And he is, unless I'm just missing unless it's just somebody like it's like Zion or something wild. I mean, I can't imagine somebody on the first couple of years of their rookie deal coming back for Sabonis. I think he's got to be number one on the list of possible guys, and wasn't even on the list, I thought, until this trade came through.
I did not consider him as an option because I didn't think it was one. So let me run you through some stats with Tyrese Haliburton really quick, Dave. Tyrese Haliburton is currently shooting 41.3% from three. That would be first on the Pacers by 4%. Tyrese Haliburton is currently averaging 7.4 assists per game. That would be first on the Pacers by 1.5 assists per game. He's also currently averaging about 15 points, which would be fourth on the Pacers. Oh, by the way, he's a second-year player playing with another guard who has the ball all the time. He is awesome right now. Like, he's not, he's a second-year guard. Like, I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse and declare him some amazing thing, but he is already pretty damn good. He's in the Rising Stars game a lot with Duarte, right? Like that. Yeah. He's one of those sophomores who's got that level of accolade already. He's not on the same team as Duarte, but they're both playing in that now.
They're the two gems. They're the two kind of like teenish gems, kind of back-to-back drafts playing together, which is pretty neat. And you mentioned that 3-point accuracy. About 40% of those threes, a little more than that, are off the dribble. I mean, this isn't a guy that is a part of like the Warriors or something. And so he's having an incredible 3-point percentage because they move the ball extremely well, have extremely good spacing, and they do it philosophically. I mean, this is a guy that's pulling up off the bench, hitting threes. He's not Steph Curry, but I mean, those are the tough ones. And so to be able to hit 3-pointers at that kind of clip while taking that number of threes off the dribble at that age, it's just a really rare thing to see about anybody. I don't care where they were drafted.
Let me tell you a cool Tyrese Haliburton fact, Dave. Are you ready?
I am extremely ready.
He was born on February 29th of 2000.
Is that he's a leap day baby?
A leap day birthday. So he does not have a birthday, air quotes, this year. He will just magically turn 22 in March. I don't know how.
Does that mean does it mean the Pacers get him rookie cost control for 20 years because they only have like four birthdays?
That's right. So technically, he's only had 5 birthdays in his life. So they have a 5-year-old now that they just traded.
Talk about Dylan Young, man.
For those unaware of him, actually 6'5", so a pretty big combo guard. Can kind of play the 1 or the 2. I mentioned the assist and scoring stats. 12th pick by the Kings in the 2020 draft.
It's a little hard than I remember.
Yeah, well, right about Duarte's range. So clearly talented and good now, and it's pretty incredible. It's available. The stat I sent in a chat with you, Dave, and a couple other people. All I did is I sorted 22 and younger players in the NBA by offensive box plus minus. And Tyrese Haliburton is 5th. The 4 guys ahead of him are John Morant, an all-star, Luka Doncic, an all-star, LaMelo Ball, an all-star, and Darius Garland, an all-star. Right? Like that is he's not those guys, but he is the next guy behind them in terms of offensive impact for young guys. He is just a beast. And, he talked about reactions a little bit and finding the next JO kind of level guy, but Woj said it on TV, and I kind of mentioned already. I just can't kind of believe he was available at all. And I get why the Kings, who have Fox, who they maxed already, who's pretty good. I actually thought Fox would be better than he is this year before the year started. They drafted Davion Mitchell, who's been pretty good. They would like to make the play-in. Sabonis clearly helps them a lot. And we'll get to Sabonis in a second because trading him away is a huge deal. A huge deal. That's being really overlooked in all this. But I can't believe that a guy of that impact level was available. And for the Pacers, who just traded LeVert away on Sunday, right? That signaled what they're doing. They are trying to just not maybe completely bare bones, but they traded him for a guy who's not going to play at all this year, right? Like they are clearly going for next year. To get a guy like Haliburton, who's as talented as he is on offense, will be under team control for at least the rest of this season. Plus, if he signs a qualifying offer, worst case scenario, which, by the way, that has never happened ever, but you always have to talk about it, at least 3.5 more seasons. On the same timeline as Duarte, on the same timeline as Jackson, whatever you want to put Goga in there, they still have the first round picks. It's like as good as the Pacers could have gotten to me. I mean, that I can't even believe they were able to do it. When I thought of the value of guys for Sabonis, I never put Haliburton in there. So I think this is just wonderful work by Kevin Pritchard.
Yeah, and so question about, is this going to be a full teardown? Are they going to go full youth? It is an interesting question about whether or not they're going to do that, because you talk about timelines, but in the past, like with those kind of, the JO trade, there was the Bender trade at the same time, which didn't quite work out. But they rolled back into the next year, and they made the playoffs the next year, and they kept Best, and they kept Reggie, and they kept Jalen Rose, and Al Harrington was young. They had started that little bit of youth movement, but they traded off about half the veterans, but they kept the other half, and they incorporated everybody else into the lineup. And so I don't think that's off the table as far as what the Pacers can do here. And it makes it really interesting because, I mean, obviously LeVert's out. They trade him for a first. That seems like a little bit more of a okay, we're just going to sell everybody off and get future picks. But now one option that they have is that they get Hield, and Hield just kind of replaces LeVert. They get a first at the same time. They had to put out a second here, but they got 2 back. And so they kind of shift everything around. And instead of having, LeVert and, Sabonis is kind of broken off into Haliburton, but from that shooting guard position, now they've got Hield in a first and a couple seconds, or 1 second, I guess, is the net there. And that's a pretty good return. And if they wanted to say, okay, take the first, take our first, that's going to be a premium. Not saying I'm part of the Pacers, but I'm pretending like I'm in the front office right now. So our first, that's going to be at the top of the draft next year. And then you might say, whoa, wait a second. I mean, they did this before the draft for the trade deadline. So I'm sure that they have an eye on any contender that says, hey, we need our LeVert, like Cleveland made. We need someone off the bench, or we need a little bit of extra scoring punch out of the backcourt. Maybe there's some juice to be squeezed out of that orange. But the Pacers also had the chance to say, look, Brogdon's locked up, Hield's locked up, Haliburton's cool, Duarte's cool. We're handing over the keys to Miles Turner a little bit. We're developing Jackson. We've got an incoming premium pick. We've got another first-round pick. Maybe we don't have to completely tear down the rest of it. Maybe we can do the half and half, and the 1 year dipping into the top of the lottery might be enough. Got half the young guys, half the veterans, and kind of go with that for a little bit. I don't think that's off the table. Now, I don't say that they're going to do that, but they have done things like that in the past, and they've done it actually extremely successfully. In fact, that's the only time that they reached the upper echelons of contending for a title, is when they did something like that. But I don't think it's completely set that they're going to flip Hield, or that they are going to get rid of Brogdon. What do you think? I mean, do you think that there's a chance that they kind of roll with that and do the 50-50?
Let's talk about the rest of the pieces. But Dave, I'm going to cut you off because let's first talk about the good folks over at PrizePicks. If you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA, then you've got to try the award-winning PrizePicks app. They make daily fantasy as easy as possible. I love it, and you will too. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can up to 10 times any entry you make. You can make your entries in a minute or less. It's super easy. It's super safe. Fast withdrawals. You've got to try PrizePicks out. They have any prop you can think of: points, rebounds, steals, threes, whatever. You've got to try it. They've got NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer. Anything you want to try, they've got it over on PrizePicks. For a limited time, they have an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our listeners. You can get $50 for free. Free $50 if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. All you got to do is use the code NBA when you sign up. That's right, exclusive offer for Locked On listeners, $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Thank you, everybody, for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every day as I talk about the reshaping Indiana Pacers. And we'll get to Sabonis and Holiday and Lamb in the last segment here because it's, again, pretty seismic stuff. But, Dave, before the break, you asked me about Buddy Hield and what they could do with him. And Tristan Thompson is also a name that I'll have to talk about for the next maybe 48 hours or so.
He and Miles Turner together, that's
Yes.
like the Boston connection and the sliding doors of what they did there. Now they're on the same squad.
So the thing about Buddy Hield is not very good. I mean, everyone who covers the Kings, roots for the Kings, whatever that I talk to, they don't think Buddy Hield is very good. Here's what I'll say about Buddy Hield. The Pacers suck at shooting this year. They're horrible at it. And Buddy Hield, the only thing he's redeemably good at on an NBA level is shooting threes. Carlisle is very encouraging of anyone who's on the court for him. If you're open, shoot. Even if you're not that open, shoot. Torrey Craig shoots a lot. Goga shoots a lot. Sabonis shot a lot. McConnell was shooting threes. If you're a Pacers fan, you know this. Buddy Hield is going to have the greenest of green lights ever if the Pacers do keep him. So is he not very good? Yeah. He's probably a negative contract, really, at the number he makes. But he could fit decently well on a team that has no shooting, zero shooting. They just traded their best shooter in Justin Holiday away in this trade. And the fact that Justin Holiday is their best shooter is also telling of what I'm saying about Buddy Hield. They acquired two 40% shooters actually in this trade because Haliburton, like we mentioned earlier, can also chuck it from anywhere. So in terms of looking forward with Buddy and really the Pacers in general, they can't trade Brogdon. Like they legally can't. So I actually wonder if maybe they try to flip Buddy, like you said. His contract stinks. It would probably take stuff plus Buddy to do anything super meaningful with his contract. But I would consider, especially if Brogdon can come back not too long from now, he's questionable to play in 2 hours against the Hawks, 3 hours from now against the Atlanta Hawks. See what you got with Brogdon Haliburton. See what you got with Brogdon Buddy, right? That's kind of been the thought with TJ Warren for forever, but they can't trade Brogdon. So it makes sense because if they want to trade him on draft night to know, oh, wow, he's a combo guard. Haliburton's a combo guard. They work so well together. And Buddy Hield is a great complementary shooter. Yeah, you got to try that if you keep Buddy. Now, I don't know what they will do because, like I said, his contract isn't great, Buddy's isn't, and it's pretty long. It comes off the books when they would have to pay someone like Haliburton. It's not crippling or anything like that, but it's 3 more years, including this year. It's really 2 after this, at pretty big numbers. He's the highest paid pace the rest of the season. So I don't know what they decide to do with him, but I will say his only redeeming skill is something the Pacers desperately need. So it wouldn't stun me if they kept him and tried to squeeze how he could fit on the team.
Yeah, that's kind of where I landed as well. And, depending on how you view, say, Haliburton, obviously, you mentioned the kind of the shifting of the contracts a little bit, and he's probably going to make a lot less than he should for a while. Duarte is going to make a lot less than he should for a while, and Jackson's going to make, and all of those guys. And so you have, okay, now we take the sum total of all these talented rookies that we have, and then we're basically paying that extra money to Buddy Hield, and then we end up switching that gear. So I can see that happening. I just don't. I think if the Pacers get something pretty solid, an offer for Hield, then they should take it and run and kind of go away from that. So
I agree.
Maybe a bit less of a plan, but I don't think that they should do anything drastic or take anything that is sort of damaging to them in any way. If you get another bad contract back for a pick, I mean, maybe I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It depends on what the quality of it is. So, but if that leverage kind of trade is out there, especially if with expiring. I think that's a pretty easy decision to be able to do. Lakers, it's the question is, but I'm serious. it's do you do that Lakers scraps and just get them off the books? Cause they feel a little bit of buyer's remorse for the Westbrook deal. That could be on the table. I could see the Pacers maybe doing something like that just to kind of get that piece of business done and move on to the kind of the next era. And then just, hopefully the everything collapses and then 2027 pick is actually pretty good. I mean, it would be interesting. I've never seen the Pacers do anything like that. Like, just give us a pick in like 5 years. Sometimes that just ends up being stupid, but sometimes that ends up being actually a super good thing. I would never bet on the Lakers just being bad just because they're the Lakers. And they have seemingly boundless resources, but they are getting a little thin and guys are getting old and they're kind of running out of options. And 2027 pick, if you kind of end up getting that for a guy that might not really play anyway, can clear minutes for Duarte, I'd be all right with that, I suppose. I forget what the Lakers have as far as sorry to cut you off, Tony. I forget what the Lakers have as far as expiring deals go though. I don't remember what the cost of that is financially.
Yeah, it's like none, and that's kind of it actually.
Right.
It's pretty tough. Like Taylor Horton Tucker would have to be in there, and immediately if I'm the Lakers, like that's probably too much. It's a risky thing. But with the pick thing, like when Houston, they traded the second rounder that the Pacers now got from Cleveland in 2019. Like they still had James Harden, right? They're probably like, yeah, we don't care, whatever. And all of a sudden that pick is awesome. Like you never really know what's going to happen with seconds that you trade 4 years out. So yeah, I get why especially because the Lakers had basically traded for and then all of a sudden didn't for Buddy this summer, why they might be interested. But like with Rubio, and I've done a terrible job of explaining this on the show, and I hash this out with you, they can only trade Buddy by himself to another team. There could be a trade involving Buddy and someone else, but they can't be together. It's very confusing, very stupid. Just in your head, picture that Rubio and Buddy, they can be traded, not with someone else, but not aggregated with someone else. It's not worth getting into. So they could flip Buddy if they wanted. They also got Tristan Thompson in this trade. Let's just get that over with. I mean, I would not play him over Turner, over Goga, over Jackson. There's no reason. He's an expiring deal. If he lasts on the team past the deadline, I would just cut him immediately. There's no point of having him. I'd buy him out if he can get a minimum from a contender. Just free up the roster spot. He's literally valueless to the Pacers. He's just in this as salary slots. I mean, I don't know if you disagree with any of that.
No, same thing. It's just sort of a trivial name. Added to the Tristan Thompson jersey is second behind the Ricky Rubio jersey as far as novelty jerseys go. For anyone that has followed the cap and tried to keep a little bit of a grip on this, I thought it was kind of interesting that I think we found out that anytime two teams over the cap make a trade, technically they're using trade exceptions. Like they instantly create one and then use it and then swap them.
People are clicking off the podcast, Dave. You're being too boring. We don't want to get into this.
So people like that a little bit more than you think. It's just it's sort of an interesting note, but no one ever mentions it because it doesn't matter unless you're trying to flip one of a part of a trade like that immediately, and then the rules start to apply.
But I think, and I'll talk about this tomorrow probably, and like moves they could make now, but it's not impossible that they try to trade Tristan Thompson or something, or they try to trade Buddy. But it there's a reason they're paid what they're paid, and no one was taking them or anything like that. So I don't know what exactly their values are, what the Pacers will try to do with them.
Well, they're definitely going to go shopping in the who needs cap relief market. It seems like they've been very loudly about that. And so, Rubio's part of that. And Tristan Thompson is expiring. I do have that right, correct?
Yeah.
And so they've got several different things. And like you said, you can't necessarily pair Rubio up with something. But you can, if someone's about the same as Rubio and someone's about the same as Tristan Thompson, then to one team, you can have two different elements of cap relief if that's something that helps the Pacers. So he might be a part of that as well. But if not, then I'm sure he'll be a free agent on Friday.
Yeah. And so much of this just will evolve based on the rest of their deadline, right? Like what if they move Torrey Craig and now they have an open roster spot? Now they might be less receptive to buying out Tristan Thompson. This stuff doesn't really matter. Tristan Thompson and Ricky Rubio will have literally no impact on the future of the Pacers, but they are guys that are on the team right now and merit 2 seconds of discussion. So let's talk about the Pacers and the guys that traded away, because this is a Pacers podcast. I get why people want to know about their new guys, but they just traded away. I don't know where you want to slice it, but one of the best 10 guys in franchise history in terms of how good he was when he actually played, not the totality of his impact. I'll let other people slice that out. But before we talk about Sabonis, Justin Holiday, and Jeremy Lamb, Dave, you know what we should talk about first?
What's that?
The good folks over at Built Bar, who are making the best tasting protein bars ever. They taste like candy bars, but they are way healthier, way better for you. And they're actually good, which is strange to say, but most protein bars I've had in my life are disgusting. But Built Bars are delicious, 100% covered in chocolate, soft, easy to chew protein bars. They have this puff variety too that is even chewier and has this marshmallow stuff in them. They're absolutely delicious, 100% covered in real chocolate, including the puff ones. Low calorie, only 130. High protein, 17 grams of protein. It's the perfect healthy replacement for your candy bar, but good for you, still great for your New Year's resolution. I love the peanut butter brownie flavor. Everybody loves the cookie dough flavor. You got to try them. Go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. That promo code again is LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. The Pacers have Tyrese Haliburton now. I'll be talking about him for, oh my goodness, seasons and seasons and podcasts and podcasts. There's plenty of time to talk about that. They no longer have Domantas Sabonis. And we'll talk about Justin Holiday and Jeremy Lamb too. But I mean, that is pretty seismic in this. And I know that the Pacers are getting a lot of public praise for this trade. Rightfully so. Haliburton's very good. We went through the stats earlier. We went through what he's good at earlier. He fits extremely well on their timeline with their key players. Sabonis is also very good. Sabonis is a two-time All-Star the last 2 seasons, has been basically the thing propping the Pacers up the last couple years when they've had a lot of guys injured. He's been one of their rock-solid offensive players. He fits with everybody. He'll make the Kings certainly better, I think, in the next year or two. No idea when Haliburton's peak would come in that pan. Doesn't matter. He's awesome. And trading him away is very seismic, very directionally giving away from the Pacers. And I'm curious, Dave, what was your first thought before, regardless of the return, of trading away a guy like Domantas Sabonis?
Well, when they first sent out the flare that said we might be retooling, we might do this, that, and the other. The first thing I said, not on your pod, so I'm so sorry, Tony. This was on Mark's pod, but it's like the guy that might have to trade is Sabonis, because if they're gonna get something good, they got to give up something good, And so it's just kind of a necessary function of all the different things you could get, all the different picks, all the different young guys, all the different whatever. It's if you want to get that one premium asset, like you got to give up something that is worthy of that kind of return. And so that makes it, I think, important to, you got to bring something to the table if you want to get something back. I mean, there's no chance that the Pacers are going to trade, Turner and Warren for Zion. So you got to do something that's something really good. And that is, with again, doing sort of the Pacers historian thing, but both of the Davis brothers that got traded netted good and talented young people in return. They both made all-star teams after they left, and so if they traded guys that they weren't quite as good as Sabonis, though. I mean, like having a guy at this level, as far as willingly goes, we can argue about how willingly this is based off of internal dynamics and team chemistry and all that sort of jazz. But they had him under contract control for a decent amount of time. It seems like they had the option to trade Miles Turner and continue to build around Domantas Sabonis. So to willingly trade a guy like this, I mean, this is, I think, got to be by far the most talented Pacer. I mean, you're looking at Jalen Rose as maybe
have they ever traded, example,
you mean? But at the time. Obviously, Paul George is a whole different story, but they
definitely Paul, right?
They had to trade him, though. See what I'm saying? Like, they could have just kept Sabonis after them.
And it's kind of adding to that. Like, that's kind of what I said about the LeVert trade is they traded Vic midseason, but on their own autonomy, LeVert was like the biggest midseason trade they've made in like 2 decades, right? Because Vic didn't force their hand, but was close, like they didn't have to trade Caris LeVert. They still decided to. That's kind of what I think you're saying is.
Yeah, I think I would say the Rose one's bigger, I would think.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was pretty important to the team. But
right.
That's that is they don't do that very often. And so,
twice in my life.
But it was interesting that like after the 2000 finals, they had guys leaving. And so they had an excuse to trade these guys. Like, we have to retool. And so one thing that I've always been curious about with Turner and Sabonis is that when Sabonis started to emerge, people would say, oh, well, then they have 2 centers. That's a problem. Like, well, it is, but the Pacers make their biggest leaps by making trades. And it's a good problem in the sense that eventually someone's going to come to a head and they're going to have to trade one of them. It's going to come to a point where the rest of the league is like, oh, obviously you have to do something in order to balance this roster and make the locker room right and all that sort of jazz. But I do think that helps with trade return, because now instead of saying, oh, why are you have a 2-time All-Star and you're trying to trade him? What's wrong with this dude? Like, what's going on with the Pacers that makes them want to get rid of Sabonis? But now anybody engaging with the Pacers, it makes all the sense in the world that they would have to trade one of them. And I think that you honestly do get a better trade return when you have to trade one of them, And so I've always been a little bullish on what the Pacers would eventually do with that. And it has been a long, long time kind of speculating what it was going to do. And Haliburton's a good one, but man, Sabonis is good. I think it's somewhat weirdly controversial within Pacer fandom because the natural split of Turner and Sabonis means that it's like two divorced parents. Basically, you really deeply exaggerate the flaws of one, and you really exaggerate the benefits of the other because you pick sides, and you end up fighting about it over and over again. And
you know what the biggest problem with this trade is I can't just fall back and do an update on the Turner Sabonis pairing segment when I'm out of content ideas. I actually have to think of creative stuff to talk about. I have a stupid update for you. Haliburton has been on Twitter since the trade because his pin tweet used to be like, Sacramento, let's go. I got drafted here. And he removed the pin tweet. So he hasn't done anything, he's liked or tweeted anything, but my psycho butt has been all over his social media.
It's like I finally get to leave Sacramento and I get to go to Sacramento, but colder.
Yeah. So with Sabonis, sorry to derail that conversation.
That's okay. I'm sure that hating on Indiana and Indianapolis is very popular with your listeners.
I'm using BPM because it's the easiest basketball reference sortable advanced set. It's pretty good. It's not my number one favorite, but it's pretty good. If you just go every season in Pacers history sorted by BPM, here are the players that have a better individual season than Sabonis. Reggie, Vic, and PG. That's it. That's the whole list, right? Like he, at his peak, was awesome. Yeah. So this is a huge move from the Pacers. Like I get why they did it. They're being heralded smartly. They get Kevin Pritchard gets the crown for the rest of the season. Like, yeah, they made a lot of good moves this week. But this is a big deal. Like they just dumped a two-time All-Star who, quite frankly, probably was one or two injuries away from maybe being three-time this year. And that, injury replacement, blah, 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 doesn't count. But he is very good.
Yes.
The Kings will be better for this. And it's a big loss for the Pacers this year. Like even this year, just the Carlisle year, with Turner on the court and Sabonis off, they've been outscored by 72 points in less than 500 minutes. Like they have been killed in those minutes, and they've had so many injuries that they've had funky lineups no matter what package you make. But they've actually done better in the Turbonus minutes than the non-Turbonus minutes under Carlisle. He's done a good job with the pairing. Finally, they have a coach who figures it out. They're like, screw it, we're done with this. But but the numbers are not good there. And we all know what Turner's really good at. He's the longest tenured Pacer by now quite a bit, actually. Now that Sabonis has been traded like 3 seasons, basically, he's the longest tenured Pacer. We know what he's good at and how he'll fit with these guards, and he'll get the role that he, maybe not exactly, but he'll get closer to the role he wants, and that's all good. But they will be worse. Like they will be worse for the rest of the season, even at their best without Sabonis. They might even be worse next year because he is that good, and he would have been that good. He's only 25. He'll still get better. It's a huge deal to be losing him.
Absolutely. And, I wonder about the guard play and guard development a little bit. I mean, he was so good at setting screens and throwing passes and putting guards in good positions. I mean, it's always you want a good pick and roll partner to be able to make that happen. Hopefully Jackson comes back and Turner steps it up a little bit. And, obviously, but they have shoes to fill. That was very crucial to their offense. And he was a hub that ended up creating a lot for everybody on the court, and that's just going to be gone completely.
Right.
And, I don't know how much of the rest of the season that they're going to be playing without Brogdon. So, obviously it's kind of funny because I'm like, who's going to handle the ball? I'm like, oh yeah, Tyrese Haliburton is going to handle the ball a little bit.
Yeah, they have Haliburton. Okay, this is not related to the next two guys we'll talk about, but I want to scope it out right now. I guess they could make more trades in the next 2 days, so this could be a stupid discussion. But right now, tell me if you don't think this should be the Pacers starting 5 for the rest of the season.
Tell me if it don't think. Okay.
Yeah. If I say something that you're like, no, he shouldn't start.
Okay.
Fully healthy, which knock, never will happen ever. I think it should be Brogdon, Haliburton, Duarte, Warren, Turner, if Warren ever plays. If Warren doesn't play, I'd put Brissett there. Do you have anything different than that 5 for the rest of the season?
I don't think so, although I'm sort of struggling to remember exactly who is on the Indiana Pacers right now. I'm not even joking. I'm like,
then the bench 5 would be Lance until McConnell's back, and then Buddy at the 2. Backup 3, Torrey Craig is still on the team right now, so he can play there. Isaiah Jackson's your backup 5. Goga fits in there somewhere now.
Yeah.
That I think is your rotation the rest of the way. I probably just forgot someone, but I think that's what they should do, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I guess we're just going to see about Warren being on the team. I think having him traded for cap space would be really sad. I think
really stupid. He's expiring. Why would you trade him for cap space? He himself is cap space.
No, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. Well, this is what I was implying. If there was
Yes,
just sort
yeah.
of like if they're like, someone will give us a second for it, and I'm like, what the hell, why not? You know, like,
Yeah, don't do that.
it's that kind of trade is what I meant on the outgoing, not to get the Pacers.
Oh, I forgot. I did forget a player. Dwayne Washington should probably sneak some minutes in there as well. Him and Buddy.
There you go.
Wow, their shooting lineup with him and Buddy could be pretty fascinating. So bump everybody up a position. Craig at the 4, Buddy at the 3, Dwayne at the 2 in the backup unit now.
Yeah, you might see some really wild games of this backcourt, just everybody firing away. I mean, you might have some the long-standing Pacers low-end record. I mean, in the hierarchy of three-pointers made, franchise records, I feel like the Pacers are pretty low. I've never seen a list of like what franchises records for most threes made in a game. I feel like the Pacers are just pretty low, and we might see that be broken. I wouldn't be completely surprised to just see teams just launching away under Carlisle as the young guys and do something pretty wild. There'll be some bad games too. I mean, there'll be some 10 for 45s there, you know, in the mix, but it'll be fun to see them all fire away. And Warren, that's a really interesting question of if it comes, the heel heals, and he's able to play, and he's saying, oh, you know what the heck, I'll come back and be part of the squad on a friendly deal because I'm you know, I would have minutes depending on what they do with their draft picks. I wouldn't be completely surprised to see that happen. And, you know, it depends on, again, what happens in the draft, but Warren as maybe kind of an ad hoc 4 as his career gets older, I think is possible. It's all going to depend on the deal. What's that?
Yeah. He should have been playing the 4 a long time ago.
Yes, definitely. You know, like trading one of the 2 bigs in order to have him as the 4 and kind of move the lineup forward from there is something that, in the theoretical version of the Pacers that never existed, was something that I had an eye on a long time. And if he can get healthy, I wouldn't quite count it out as him being a part of the Pacers next year as well. Again, it's just all about that deal.
It is. It really is. So this is the simple part. Jeremy Lamb was in this trade. I thought yesterday on Locked On Pacers, I said he was the most likely next Pacer to be moved. I was kind of right. I was also not at the same time.
You're right.
I'll count it. Right, so, I mean, they both are expiring and make about the same amount. Like, in my head, I'm just going to go, okay, Lamb for Tristan Thompson. Like, that is a part of the trade. Whatever. They're both washes. It doesn't matter. Jeremy Lamb didn't play in the Pacers last game because they, frankly, were probably shopping him and knew that this could be coming. They cleared a little money by trading him for Thompson, whatever. Justin Holiday is a little important. He was good for the Pacers the last 2 seasons. This year, so wildly inconsistent the first couple months. But like we talked about on yesterday's show again, he was lighting it up from 3 in 2022, like 42% from deep the last month and a half. Like, he's good. He was their best shooter by a little bit. Obviously, they get 2 good ones. That's a kind of big loss. So if you want to parcel it out of Lamb for Thompson, then it's really Sabonis, Holiday second for Haliburton and Buddy Hield. So Justin Holiday, like, it's hard to kind of to say what his value in this trade is, but if it helps them land Haliburton, it was totally worth getting rid of him. It's just interesting. Like, they will lose something by not having him on the team. He's the only ex-champion on the roster. He gave them a lot the last couple seasons. Oldest guy on the team. Only guy on the team born before 1990. Now off the roster, right? So they are younger for trading him, and I think that losing him does provide some value to the team. That is a little bit of a loss, but not a huge one, obviously.
Yeah, you know, it's just one of those things, like you mentioned, where he is age-wise. If the Pacers are going to take, I don't know how many good years of basketball that he has left, and Sacramento is clearly going to try to make some noise in the West and maybe make the play-in, or, you know, do ever what they're going to do here for the next couple of years. And so I suppose it's kind of a good outcome for him to be a part of a team that's actually going to try to make the playoffs this year and squeeze a little bit out of that. He might have had a little bit of value as a solo asset on the trade market, but, you know, you throw it in, you get Haliburton, and there's not much to say there. And the Pacers, the fact that it's a little bit more notable than just to throw in means that the Pacers needed more shooting. So that's definitely true. But, you know, he's played well. He had some great moments, and, you know, had served the Pacers well. He was kind of just like a TJ McConnell, was just sort of plucked off the heap a little bit. And so the fact that he is a meaningful veteran that could be a part of a rotation and provide shooting off of a quality NBA bench it's a nice little turnaround. And that was a good little find from the Pacers front office, and they squeeze a little bit more out of that by getting Haliburton.
Yeah, people don't know this super well, but the year the Pacers signed him to the room exception, I mean, Holiday was looking for a long-term deal. He got no offers that summer. Like he was struggling to get stuff. So the Pacers didn't revive his career. He was pretty old and already won a championship, but they certainly helped him make a lot more than he would have, at the time. Yeah. And now I can have fun with revisionist history, and I can say, Justin Holiday got hot for 2 months, and the Pacers got Haliburton. It wouldn't have happened if he wasn't making those threes in the year 2022, obviously. So
first guy traded, baby.
What? Yeah. So I don't have any other stray thoughts on these Pacers guys. I just think Pacers are going to be worse. I think definitely this year, and next year's tough to say. It depends on what they do this offseason, obviously. They could make another move in the next couple of days, but they can't get anyone good with who's left. Maybe Turner can fetch them someone good, but they'll definitely be a lot worse the rest of this year. But their future after this deal, and combined with the LeVert deal especially, is way, way brighter. Way brighter.
Yeah. I think that there was a little bit of angst going into the season of Pacers didn't make a move again. I wonder if a move like this would have been possible a little bit earlier if we didn't have so much weirdness with like COVID seasons and seasons shortened and seasons compressed and hiring a new coach to kind of go 2 of 3 coaches in 3 years. And I don't blame the Pacers for going into the season saying, okay, deep breath, lots happened. It's been crazy. Let's just go into the season and see what this is at and then make moves at the deadline if we have to. That seems to have paid off pretty well. I think people are pretty happy with the way it's gone so far. There's no real advantage to the Pacers having made this trade at the beginning of the year versus now. So right. All of those concerns about the loss of talent-wise for the Pacers of doing this, I think have been alleviated. And so for everybody getting a little bit kind of clammy hands about whether or not the Pacers are going to finally make a move and go on to a new era, it's good to have that question answered. And, I still have a little bit of sorrow for what the Pacers could have had. I think that there was a little bit of loss of looking at this team and saying, a team built around Sabonis just isn't going to be enough to really do anything great. And I think that that's fair, but this wasn't a team built around Sabonis. This is a team built around Victor Oladipo.
Yep.
This whole team, whole roster was supposed to be a supporting cast for an all NBA guard in Victor Oladipo. And in that sense, you do the whole revisionist thing of saying, if all these guys are healthy, including Victor Oladipo, I do think that this would have been a pretty great era of Pacers basketball. I don't know if they would have won a title. I don't know how many Eastern Conference Finals or whatever they would have met, but I think they would have had a good 4 or 5 year run. It's really sad to me how this ended. This is not even close. This is pretty close to the bottom of the way that they could have gone. And so that's a bit of a bummer, but it's nice that the Pacers did have so many good players locked up on good deals long term that they could get an asset like Haliburton, get a first back, which the Rockets just decided not to do. I guess they just didn't want a first round pick. I still don't understand what that was all about. Like LeVert was going to help them win games. I mean, like really, I don't.
No, I get why they took the risk. They thought if Vic can be good for us for the next couple of months with John Wall, he could have more value in a couple months than he does now. And then he got hurt again, right? Like they just lost the gamble. I get why they did that.
Okay.
It didn't work. It didn't work at all. They should. Here's the thing with those risks. If it doesn't work, you get killed, right? Like the Pacers traded Kawhi for George Hill, right? Yeah. That was a risk. They should get killed for that. That obviously was very stupid. But if Kawhi never was good, it would be like awesome. They got the guard that got him to conference finals twice.
I thought it was insane at the time, and I think that anyway. But going back to the postmortem here, They've got some good stuff kind of coming out of this era again. We'll see what happens with Brogdon. I think that's maybe kind of the final domino, so to speak. And I think that they might land in a pretty good place there. But I do still have dreams of what would have been if all that team would have come together. And I don't think – I think maybe I'm sort of on upper percentile of optimism about what that would have been if that would have been fully had come together. It does make me a little bit sad, but man, Haliburton, that's a pretty darn good guard. It's really hard to get really talented guards in today's NBA, and I really think that he's one of them. And this is about as good an outcome, I think, of the splitting up of Sabonis that I think that would have been possible. Really much happier to see this than to see Reddish plus 2 future picks or whatever kind of weird trade, future pick style trade return. I feel pretty good. Get that one awesome asset. I like that strategy.
as a huge fan of Tyrese Haliburton's skills and not at all a fan of Cam Reddish's skills, I too agree with the take that you just there. I'm gonna make the title of the show a pretty darn good guard. I don't know why, but that kind of rhyming just really sat well with me.
Yeah, no, it feels good. It's it's three in the bush versus one in the hand, I guess, so to speak. In this way,
how many
he's good.
Can we get into this at the end of the show?
What's that?
How many isms or random sayings can we throw in at the end of the show? Right? Yeah. I think this was a good trade for the Pacers, especially after they did deliver a trade. And I think that, obviously is where the dust settles, excuse me. And, you nailed it. Injuries completely derailed their last era. They tried to build around Vic, and Vic himself got hurt. And so obviously they traded for a bunch of injury-prone guys, and that's part of it. And some of those guys were put into bigger roles because Vic got hurt, which led to them getting hurt. It's all a big domino of mess. But that era is basically over now. Turner was on the team before that era, and he's still on it after. But the only guy who was really in that era, I guess McConnell was, and Warren got in there in the middle of it too. But that era is basically over now, which turning the page on the Pacers. They're going young. They have a young core now. For a team that had no youth pipeline to now have, and I know I'm going to include them, and everybody will make fun of me, Bitadze, Jackson, Haliburton, Duarte, 2 firsts in the upcoming draft, 3 top 35 picks, really. That's a great start for whatever you want to call what they're doing. Rebuild, retool, build on the go. Whatever person who works for the Pacers chooses the phrasing, that's fine. I don't care. They can, and that's the last thing I want to say here is Herb Simon said we can build on the go. And Kevin Pritchard or whoever was like, I think rebuilding makes more sense. This is both. It's so hard to do both, and the Haliburton trade is kind of both. So it's a win for like everybody, basically. Yeah. If the Kings make the playoffs, it'll be really a win for everybody. I don't think they will, but they could.
Yeah, it's again after the 2000 finals. This is exactly what they did, and they did it extremely well. And that was when I heard that thing from Simon. I know that people have a little bit of frustration and a little bit of built up. The post Brawl era wasn't super great, and then of course Vic gets hurt in that era. So there's a lot of not a lot of trust, but that's the kind of model that they're trying to go for here. And I feel like they've done it fairly well. And we had a little bit of confusion on Twitter a couple of days ago about good contracts and trading and whether or not it's been unprecedented before. And what I mean by that is when this rebuild's done, if this is it, I think that they might try to grind out another pick or two with, Rubio and all that sort of jazz. But if this is it,
whatever, yeah,
all their future assets in the rebuild are going to be in the building on opening day in 2022.
Right.
And so instead of a rebuild where they take one piece that's a superstar and break it off into 4 picks and stuff that's going to convey over the next 5 years, everything that they want out of the rebuild will be in the building on opening day. And that's what I mean by how unique it is, because they started it mid-season, and less than 365 days later, they will be done. And so I do think that there is a chance that they stink next year and they have one more pick to add to that.
And Herb Simon will love that. He will love that.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that they don't need to accumulate more talent, and I'm not saying that they're going to go right back to the playoffs or anything like that. But that's what I mean. It's that it's over to a certain degree about the youth movement on this team. And so that's what's unique, I think. And the only other really precedent I could think of is the Pacers themselves, who did it a little bit before. So that's going to be interesting to see play out. And that mix of youth and probably some veterans is going to be something to really see. And I wish them all the best. It's going to be fun to watch, which is what's important. And what I think you're probably going to be most excited about is that I don't know what it was like to grind out all these podcasts up to this point. I'm sure that there were some days where it's like, oh my God,
I had a good time.
Magic. You had a good time.
I really did. I know you laughed, but I enjoy oh wow, this is a cool stat about this vet that no one cares about for me. I like
that. I appreciate it, and that's why you do what you do. But I think that it's going to be a little bit more obviously fun for the rest.
I can just make my next 10 podcast titles now, like today, right? Tyrese Haliburton is good. Tyrese Haliburton can do this. That. Yeah. That's it. That's true. Kind of what they just did.
And letting Mount.
There's a chance that he could be the face of the team in 3 months. That's not that crazy to think about. That's the kind of trade they just made.
It was just an interesting thing with Miles Turner. They've got a few.
Yeah, Miles Turner. Right.
One benefit of doing this now is they get a few months of Miles Turner, like, oh yeah, shoot it 20 times a game. Let's see what happens.
Oh, wow. Turner just averaged 18 points for 3 months. We'll totally not trade him on draft night. Yeah, that's the kind of thing they're going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting how that plays out. And, whether it's the focus is going to be on him maybe scoring 18 points a game from here on out, or maybe the focus on the fact that he might shoot 44% from the field from this time out. And that's a storyline right there that I'm really interested to see unfold. But he wanted the keys. He's got the keys. Let's see what he does with the keys.
It's going to be a fascinating couple of months, and you guys know where to turn for my nerdy, as Dave has said, my analysis of this team for the rest of the season. And the crazy part is it's only 4:30 on Tuesday. There's 48 more hours of this trade stuff to talk about. 2 more shows likely coming from me on what the Pacers could do and will do, especially after. I mean, this 100% will be their biggest trade, but what else could be out there? That will come tomorrow because they still have Miles Turner. They still have Torrey Craig. McConnell and Warren are still kind of pieces that in theory you could squint at and move. Who knows what happens with Goga now? They have stuff that could still happen. So I'll talk about that tomorrow. But 50 minutes of the biggest trade the Pacers have made in a long time, I think is a good place to stop. Dave, where can people follow you and all your stuff and your brilliant musings that you brought to the show?
Miller Time
compliments sound sarcastic. That was genuine, but I get why you laugh.
I am the son of a Midwestern mom and an English dad, which means I'm awesome at taking compliments. I'm at Miller Time Pod. Find me there, or find me in my house overlooking my street as my neighbors plow their driveways.
Indiana, what a state. Haliburton, goodbye, California. Welcome to the snow, buddy. You better enjoy it. This show's at Locked On Pacers and me at T-East NBA. It's going to be a lot of Haliburton talk from me on there going forward. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.